Hey everyone, my name is WyrmsEye and I welcome you back to another episode of the Battlespot Factory, our VGC Battlespot series. So this week we're going to be starting off with a new team. As you can see down below, the team is listed, but obviously it's something a little bit different here. So we've got the Alolan Persian, the Clefairy, the Tapu Bulu, Nihilego, Garchomp and Arcanine. Now, those of you who have seen a few of the games that I have played on the various outlets that I do use may be familiar with the team, as it is my take on a Gravity and Hypnosis team, better known obviously as Gravnosis, popularized in 2016 with Mr. Barry Anderson, who used it alongside Thomas Plater at Dublin Regionals back in 2016, and obviously it went to greater success as the year developed that in 2016, with Bronzong being the primary benefactor of Gravity and Hypnosis, becoming a mainstay of a big six chord that developed around it. And obviously it did very well in US internationals, with Aaron Traylor taking it to second place with said Bronzong. So we're going to jump onto the ladder here. We may not be able to pull off the strategy straight away. I'm hoping certainly that within the first couple of episodes that we will manage to pull it off, but the team itself does have some weaknesses, as does any team in actual fact, and there are some synergy problems that we have to deal with, as we find a Japanese opponent with a rating of 1576 to start off with a team of Tapu Lele, Gastrodon, Arcanine, Braviary, Alolan Muck and Alolan Ninetales. So this team is very unorthodox in respect to the fact that it's got a Braviary. Now that is going to pose some difficulty to start off with because of its Defiant ability, meaning that our Arcanine isn't going to be as able to just simply switch in and start pressuring down some of his other Pokemon that he has on the field. The Tapu Lele is obviously a problem to stopping our Alolan Persian from getting up fake outs. Realistically, it's not going to be as easy to just simply breeze through this team, so I've got to be slightly careful of how I tackle this. I think though, leading off with Nihilego and I can lead off with Nihilego and Arcanine here. It does threaten the Braviary quite well, and in the back I think I'm going to bring Persian and I want the Tapu Bulu. So we're not going to be directly trying to get up our Gravity strategy straight away, as it's the Clefairy that carries the Gravity, so not bringing it means that we can't really rely on Hypnosis that is on our Alolan Persian to start disrupting. However, if we do get into a bad place, Alolan Persian's Hypnosis may prove very useful. We will have to go for a 50% accuracy hit, which may give us some problems in the long run, as our opponent leads with the Alolan Ninetales and the Arcanine against our Nihilego Arcanine. So it's a very cagey start. The Arcanine is obviously threatened by our Nihilego very prominently, as is the Alolan Ninetales on my opponent's side with our Arcanine. However, Alolan Ninetales is going to be faster than both of our Pokemon, so it will be able to get up an Aurora Veil if it so wishes to straight away. Despite that, I still feel that there's mileage in going for the Power Gem into the Arcanine, and we can also Flamethrower into the Alolan Ninetales. I think this is a safe play. All depends how the Arcanine decides to tackle the first turn. As we see, our opponent's Alolan Ninetales in favour of the Gastrodon. So Nihiligo's Power Gem is going to go out onto the Arcanine. This does pick up the one-hit knockout, and the Arcanine goes down. This does give us a Beast Boost, special attack, and you will see that our Nihiligo is Life Orbed. Now this is something very specific that the team needs in order to deal with some of the problems that I have regarding Tapu Lele and Drifblim setups. We may come across one during our time on the ladder with this team. So we do see that the Gastrodon has the leftovers on it, so we do get to confirm this Pokemon's item straight away, which is going to be a massive help in the long run. But we have taken an early lead, and we do see the Tapu Lele hit the field. Now, part of the reason why Nihiligo is so necessary against Tapu Lele is because with the Life Orb, it can actually cleanly knock out most moderately bulky Tapu Lele spreads in just a single hit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go for the Sludge Bomb into the Tapu Lele, and I'm also going to Snarl here with our Arcanine. This will lower the special attack of both opposing Pokemon, as we see that the Tapu Lele is actually a Scarf variant. So our Nihiligo is going to go down here, unfortunately, to a critical hit, but that's not really important. Something we should have considered there, as the Gastrodon avoids our Snarl, unfortunately. So the Tapu Lele does take a special attack drop, but the Scald is going to do a lot to our Arcanine here. Taking it roughly to half health. So it's nice to know that we get the confirmation that the Tapu Lele is in fact Scarf. That's something that we can use to our advantage in following turns here. With that in mind, we can bring in Tapu Bulu. This will threaten our opponent's Gastrodon very heavily, and it also gives us a bit more control over the damage output that this Tapu Lele can give. We've removed the Psychic terrain and now set up the grassy terrain here, which will be very useful. I do want to kind of predict that the Gastrodon may protect this turn, or indeed switch out, which might be an issue. However, I'm also just slightly concerned that the output from the Tapu Lele is still going to be quite high. So what I want to do is I am going to just simply Horn Leech into the Gastrodon, and I will continue to try and Snarl. Because even if the Gastrodon does switch out, it's not too much of a deal, as we do see the Arcanine take a Psychic. With the Snarl debuff that we got onto it, it does mean that we're able to survive that hit, proc our Iapapa Berry, which gives us a nice 50% health. Snarl does go off onto the Gastrodon and the Tapu Lele, so special attack on the Tapu Lele is now at -2. As we do manage to get our Horn Leech out onto the Gastrodon, and the Gastrodon now faints as a result. So we're now in a very comfortable position here. The Tapu Lele isn't so much of a threat anymore, with -2 on its special attack, and the Ninetales is still threatened from the Arcanine that we have on the field, which is very nice here. Tapu Bulu doesn't really want to be taking a Blizzard by any means. So our best play may be to protect our Tapu Bulu, predicting the Blizzard to come out from the Ninetales rather than an Aurora Veil, or do we just... Because I think what I want to do is get into a position where I can get Tapu Bulu and Persian onto the field at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to protect here, and I am going to snarl once again. Breaking any potential focus sash on the Ninetales will be important, as we do see the Tapu Bulu protect, so no protects coming out from my opponent's side of the field. Tapu Lele does continue to go for the Psychic onto the Arcanine here. Does lower our special defense, unfortunately, as the Ninetales does indeed go for a Blizzard. Doing respectable damage to the Arcanine as we do manage to get our Snarl off. And in so doing, we do lower the special attack of both of these Pokemon once again. Now, the big question is actually, will the amount of damage that we did onto the Ninetales be healed out by our grassy terrain? And it may well be that it has actually done so, which is unfortunate. How many turns of grassy terrain do we have? 3. I think here I'm going to switch the Bulu out in for the Persian. And try and go for a Flamethrower onto the Ninetales here. I think my opponent's best option is to try and Psychic into the Tapu Bulu and to simply Blizzard once again. As we do see the Psychic go into the Bulu slot, so Persian soaking up the hit very well here. Arcanine does survive on 5 HP, the Persian taking the hit really well there, as we do manage to get our Flamethrower off onto the Arcanine, doing significant amounts of damage, but more importantly, it now does break Sash. Sorry about this, guys. What a time for us to ask for something. So I think it's a fairly safe option here now that we can go for the parting shot onto the Alolan Ninetales here. This will again lower its... Oh no, because we'll then have to take a Blizzard in the back. We can fake out the Ninetales and we can go for a Snarl once again. We are going to lose our Arcanine here because Tapu Lele can't really do anything, but our opponent actually just decides to forfeit there, not wanting to play the game out. Basically our win condition in that regard was to have the Alolan Persian still alive with the Tapu Lele still left on the field. Once the Alolan Ninetales is gone, our opponent didn't have a win condition on the table, so she had to try and remove Persian as a big priority, but unfortunately she didn't decide to go with that. So we do pick up our first win of the day, and we shall look for another. And I will just try and find some music. Let's have legendary Pokemon here. So we are once again climbing the ladder, so we're sitting at 1671, and this team is very much something that's a little bit quirky for even my tastes, as we find a Japanese opponent with a rating of 1639, with a team of Tapu Koko, Alolan Raichu, Celesteela, Mimikyu, Crocodile and Snorlax. So, if you've been watching the episodes previously, you'll know that we're very familiar with the Tapu Koko and Raichu as a combination, and we do see Mimikyu Snorlax, which does mean that our opponent does have two very opposite ends of the scale with which to deal any offensive pressure, both in speed and under Trick Room. question is it worth trying to go with Persian and Clefairy? I don't think it is in that sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead with Persian and Tapu Bulu here. I do need the Arcanine to deal with the Celesteela. And as our last, I think I want Nihilego here. So we're leaving Clefairy and Garchomp on the benches this time. As our opponent here, she's got a very scary team, and it's going to have to be how do we deal with the lead matchup that she could bring to the table. Obviously, she could go Raichu Tapu Koko, which is going to be partially blocked by our Persian and Tapu Bulu, but our opponent does actually need to go with her Mimikyu and Snorlax. So I'm not actually as worried with dealing with the Snorlax if it has Belly Drum, because foul play will mean that Persian can deal with this potential threat very easily. So what I am going to do is I am going to double target the Mimikyu here with a foul play to break the disguise. And I'm also going to Horn Leech into the Mimikyu. I do think we have enough firepower under the Tapu Bulu to take out the Mimikyu after the disguise has been broken. No protects coming out from our opponent, so most likely the Snorlax is trying to Belly Drum here, as we do see the play Rough Mimikyu go onto the Alolan Persian. Obviously the fur coat proving very influential in survivability, as the Mimikyu does survive as the Snorlax goes off with a self-destruct. Tapu Bulu does survive the hit, but Persian is unfortunately knocked out in the process. So our opponent trading 1-for-1 there, but one of his biggest hitters is now off the field, which is something that we can be very happy about. With this in mind, I am going to bring out the Nihilego. Let's see how our opponent wants to tackle this next stage here. So our opponent brings out the Crocodile here. Does manage to get an Intimidate off onto both of our Pokemon. Does more affect the Tapu Bulu rather than the Nihilego here. So Crocodile may have Tectonic Rage, which is what I'm most afraid of. However, I am just going to Sludge Bomb into the Mimikyu slot, and I am going to go for the Horn Leech into the Crocodile here. My suspicion is that we might be losing at least one of our Pokemon here. Crocodile just elects to go for an Earthquake here, so under the grassy terrain it is not going to knock out our Nihilego, and our Tapu Bulu, is that a critical hit? No, not even. So I'm surprised at that. But we do see the Horn Leech come out from the Tapu Bulu onto the Crocodile. Once again, clutch survival here from my opponent's Crocodile, obviously on a sliver of HP. So we do actually lose our Nihiligo here, most unfortunately. So the Intimidate actually proving very significant in these exchanges here. So we're going to bring our Arcanine out onto the field here. We are going to get a Intimidate onto both of these physical type attackers. Once again, I don't think there's much that we need to do in terms of being defensive, so I am just going to go for a relatively safe Flamethrower onto the Mimikyu, and I am going to Horn Leech the Crocodile once again. So the Crocodile does withdraw. What is he bringing in? He's bringing in the Celesteela. Okay. So opponent actually showing the Ghostian Z, I believe. So this probably going into our Tapu Bulu potentially here. Yeah. But at -1, our Bulu takes that very well indeed. So the Flamethrower does go out onto the Mimikyu. Does pick up the knockout once more, and our opponent's Celesteela will be hit with a Horn Leech, not doing all that much damage at all, but critically we do knock out our opponent's Mimikyu here. So we do see the Celesteela also has leftovers, so it is getting some casual recovery here. Grassy terrain is still also up on the field, so if the opposing Crocodile is trying to go for an Earthquake, it will not be as effective as before. And we still do have 2 turns of grassy terrain as well to utilise. So my play here is I need to remove the Crocodile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Flamethrower into the Crocodile and protect my Tapu Bulu here, just in case he tries to scout out with a Protect of his own. So you do see the Tapu Bulu is going to go for the Protect here. Crocodile opts to go for a Rock Slide instead, so obviously looking for a flinch onto our Arcanine, especially considering that we are under the grassy terrain. Our Flamethrower does come forth, and it will knock out the Crocodile in a blaze of glory. Sorry for that, guys. As we do see the Celesteela try to opt for a Heavy Slam into our protecting Tapu Bulu. So we can continue Flamethrowing onto the Celesteela now. I'm imagining it's going to do about 40%, so we do have to be somewhat mindful of what this Celesteela could bring to the table. So I am just debating whether or not I can't really. I think that my best play here is to superpower into the Celesteela and try and get some decent chip damage off onto it. My concern here is at an end game, if the Celesteela does have Leech Seed, it will be quite significant for it to just take some major damage, as we do get a critical hit from our superpower, which will probably be very helpful in determining the outcome of this match now. So the grassy terrain is going to go from the field this turn. Let's see how much health this Celesteela covers back. That could just be within range. So we will continue flamethrowing, and we will superpower this turn. I'm imagining the Celesteela will try to protect. Yep, to get some more leftovers and leech seed recovery from our Arcanine. Nothing too spectacular there. So we need to see just how much this puts the Celesteela into that looks roughly within range. So 40%. We'll flamethrower once again. And we will superpower once more. We could try to protect here with our Tapu Bulu, as he opts to go for a double protect. So correctly actually identifying that the win condition is to get as much health back as he possibly can. This will mean that it puts it out of range of our flamethrower and superpower combination at the very least. But I am going to protect the Bulu this turn rather than go for the superpower. I think if his best option is to try and attack the Arcanine to chip it down further. If we manage to get a burn onto the Celesteela with the flamethrower, this would put us in a better situation, as our opponent does opt to heavy slam into the Bulu. But very soon the Arcanine's berry is going to proc from all the residual damage, so Celesteela here probably quite safe to protect. Thing is, I don't think Leech Seed is going to be a useful option to go onto the Celesteela. I do think it's just got too much physical output to just knock out our Tapu Bulu quite simply. So it does go for a protect here. Arcanine's Flamethrower and our Bulu's superpower does hit into the protect here. We may need another critical hit with our Tapu Bulu to secure this match. Yeah. But I think we've got to go for it. If he chooses to double protect and fails, that would be to our advantage at the very least. That does a lot of damage. Is the superpower actually enough to claim the knockout here? Barely missing out. So the Celesteela does in fact heavy slam into our Tapu Bulu. We'll pick up the knockout here with the repeated defense drops that we've had. But we'll have to see what the Celesteela's beast boost here is. It's a special defense boost. Which does put us at a severe disadvantage now. We may have lost this game because we lose Bulu to the heavy slam. It all comes down to whether or not we can get a burn onto this Celesteela, or whether or not we can get a critical hit instead. Because I think the Celesteela will just gain back enough health to be outside of the range of Flamethrower. And this is one of the issues with a more specially orientated Arcanine, because Celesteela tends to bulk up on the special defensive side. It does mean that if it gets a Beast Boost, it does make it much more resilient to our offense with Arcanine. So Celesteela does try to go for a secondary Protected. It does fail, so how much will this Flamethrower do? Not enough, and actually I think we're in a situation here where we have actually lost. We will try and play this out. Obviously, critical hits are probably our only way out here. The opponent can go for a Protect safely this turn because it failed last turn. And this is one of the hallmarks of where this team does falter a little bit. It's not very offensively minded because it's a bit more dedicated around the element of getting gravity set up. So there are certain facets of the team that don't sort of well intermingle. We do get this Flamethrower off onto the Celesteela. No critical hit, unfortunately, so the Celesteela is going to get a heavy sound. This may pick up the knockout with the Leech Seed damage, or straight up, unfortunately. So we do take a loss there with our second game. Very unfortunate, but Celesteela pretty much showing what Celesteela can do and clutching out wins with just its defensive prowess there. We were lucky that we got it to a point where our Tapu Bulu's superpower, where it crits the defenses on the Celesteela, meant that we got it very close to within a knockout. But unfortunately, where we lost Bulu to the Heavy Slam by trying to pick up the knockout with a double target later on in that game, we actually gave it a special defense, a Beast Boost, and that allowed our opponent to basically take the game from there. So good games to my opponent. She played very well and played to her outs. Nothing wrong with that. So with that, guys, I think we're done for this episode today. As ever, if you would like to like, comment or subscribe down below, please feel free. It's greatly appreciated. But until next time, I do bid you farewell and goodbye for now.